Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stream. We're going to try flying the CRJ again. And, again, welcome. We're going to head on over to the flight sim. Ah, there we are. Let's unmute the flight sim here. There we go. Alright. Nope. So we are here in Charlotte, flying the CRJ 900. Last time we tried flying the CRJ, we had a flight sim crash, and that was like the third crash I had that day. So I actually reinstalled the entire flight sim. This flight sim is an entirely new build flight sim here. So it's Prepar3d v4.3 as always, but this is just a brand new rebuild. Put in all my traffic, and we're going to try and fly over to Myrtle Beach. I just flew this airplane over to Charlotte from Louisville, and we're getting ready to head on over to Myrtle Beach. So we're going to hop in the flight deck here and get this flight ready to go. There we are in the flight deck. All right. Again, this is exactly the way. It's not exactly the way. I had to reload the plane really quick before this, before the stream. But now that we're here, we're gonna change. I'm gonna set just a few things. All right. Okay. So let's head on over to our flight plan here. So we're in Charlotte. Going over to Myrtle Beach. As Blue Streak 5311. We're going to be departing off runway 18 left. Current winds are out of the south right here in Charlotte, so we're going to be going off of 18 left. The winds right now are 17013, and the altimeter is 2984. We got that. It's a very simple route. It's a pretty quick flight. So we're pretty much off runway 18 left on the Queen 3 departure. Unjam transition, and that's it. It's a very straight out departure. We don't do much of anything. After that, we're going to land on the ILS runway 18. We can just select that to vectors, and we are going to go. We're just going to connect directly to the legs page. From there, we can just go there, flown this route just many times. And that's what we're going to end up doing. Perfect. I'm actually going to send over the fuel and payload numbers here. So I have everything set up here. We've got 68 passengers. 1363 in the back, 440 up front, 7,000 pounds of fuel. We'll set that. As you can see, 7,000 pounds came in there, so we are good there. We'll do a flex temp, maybe 45. Is that going to work? Yep. Perfect. So our basic operating weight is 48,954. We've got 68 passengers at 190 pounds apiece. At least that's the PSA standard weights. Cargo. Usually I take this down. I got to check the cargo figures one more time. So it is 1803. And we've got 7,000 pounds of fuel. Be cruising at flight level 190. Nope. It's not the 737. There we go. So next page here. ISA deviation. We've got 8. And winds. Climb winds, we're just going to do 222 at 61. Cruise winds are going to be 222 at 59. And the descent winds are going to be 222 at 58. It's such a short flight, the winds really don't change. You probably don't even have to deal with this. We can execute that. Next page, reserves. What do we have in the reserves? 2265. 2500 is higher than that, so we're going to keep 2500. Taxi fuel is going to be 600 pounds of taxi fuel total. And our estimated time of departure is 2025. We're going to be off pretty much before that. We can execute that. VNAV setup, there's nothing else to do here. We're 250 knots till 10,000 feet. Then we switch to 290 to Mach 0.74. Cruise 290 Mach 0.74. Descent Mach 0.74 to 290 to 250 at 10,000. And we'll do a VPA of 3.0, which is fine. And go to our legs page. We are good to go there. What I will do is if I hit the menu here, I'm going to reset the fuel used. So we have an accurate number on that. And all that is set there. We got our flex temp here. I can check the takeoff trim, 4.61. The way it works in this 900, usually that's off by 0.2. So we're going to add 0.2 to that, so it'll be 4.8. And landing elevation in Myrtle Beach is 25, so we're going to round that down to 20. We go on top, put the landing elevation to 20, and we're good there. We're also going to start the APU. So we're going to open up the APU SOV. Doors open, and we can start the APU. That's going to be coming online. We're going to set those to on. Check our oxygen while we're here. Nathan, what's up, man? Nice to see you. Streaming a little bit earlier today. We're going to try that out, see how that works. Usually I'm streaming later in the night, but we're going to try it now. So we've got runway heading set. We're going to go all the way up to flight level 190. So there's 19,000 feet. And we can start the packs. So the APU is on. We got the packs. Trim is going to be 4.8. So we've got 4.8 set right there. So now I'm going to do... We're essentially going to, I guess you could say, pretend that everybody's loaded up. And we've got our final numbers here. So I have the COR. There's that. So now we have to do some math to actually get our weights so I can start getting V-speeds. Because in this plane, there are no V-speeds in the FMSs. You have to do all that on your own. So we do have a little table that I can use for my V-speeds. But what we're going to do is I'm actually going to get out my calculator here. And we're going to figure out these weights here so you can see what I'm doing. So we've got 68 people times their standard weight of 190, which is 12,920. Our cargo... not cargo, but baggage and all that stuff equals 1803. So that would be 68 times 190 equals that, plus 1802 is 14,722. Plus our basic operating weight, which is 48,954, gives us a zero fuel weight of 63,676. Plus the amount of fuel we have on board, which is 7,000, gives us a takeoff weight of 7676. And then minus the fuel, so it would be 1968, which is how much fuel we are going to burn in the air, gives us a landing weight of 68,708. Now with that, we're going to round up, so our takeoff weight is going to be 71,000 pounds, and our landing weight is going to be 69,000 pounds. We're going to come on over to the chart I have here. So for a flap 8 takeoff at 71,000 pounds, it's going to be V1 135, VR 135, V2 147, and a VFTO of 193. 69,000 pounds, it's going to be a flap 45 VREF of 135, V approach of 140, V2 go around 143, VFTO 191. Now that we have those speeds, Rivar, what's up, man? Nice to see you. We can come on down here to our primary flight display and start putting these speeds in. So our V1 speed is going to be 135. VR 135. V2 of 147. And a VFTO of 193. There you go. With all that set there, we can set a our speed bug here of V2 plus 15, so it's going to be 162. And our speed bug there. There we go. With the APU running, we can deselect the GPU and we can disconnect all that. We really don't need it. Definitely in the CRJ, make sure you disconnect the GPU before you take it off the airplane. If you don't actually depress this AC power right here, you will turn off your plane. So we've got that. Everything's ready to go here, so I can go ahead and run my before start checklist. Logbook required documents check on board. Corrosion masks are checked, 1790 psi. Parking brake is on. Fuel quantity is 6,600 required, 6,900 on board checked. Departure briefing is complete, and the gas is verified checked. And the before start checks are complete. Oh. When I reloaded this plane, I realized the generators did this, so this may break the plane. Yeah, it did. Damn it. Okay. Just gotta reprogram this real quick. I will do this in about 2 minutes. Myrtle Beach, Blue Streak. Yeah, when you reload this plane, I don't know why Aerosoft does this. I gotta find a way to change these panel states. There's gotta be a way to. When you load this plane in like a turnaround state, if you totally forget to flip the generators from off to auto, I don't know why they're on off. They never really should be there. If you don't do that, for some reason, it's the plane loads in like that, and if you do all this stuff, and you forget to do that, you will turn off your airplane. So the ILS-18 flight plan, execute perf 45, perf inits, we had 68 at 190, and the cargo was 1803, oops, and it's going to be 7,000 pounds fuel. Flight level 190. Execute, and the rest of that stuff will be saved in there. Go back to the leg page. The IRSs are going to take a second, but I'm just going to cheat really quick. There we go. And put the yaw dampers back on. We are going to squawk 2,000. And let's shut the door. We are going to get ready to get out of here. So we've still got that set. Runway heading is all set. We're going to turn on our transponder because we'll be pushing out onto an active, onto the ramp here in Charlotte. Beacon light can come on. Window heat can come on. Fuel pumps are on. All that stuff is looking good. I'm happy with all this. We're going to prepare for pushback and departure. Tail left, no engine start.
Hello, Captain. We're ready for pushback.
Alright, he's going to be connecting the tow bar here. We've got everything set, and the before start checklist is complete. We are at the regional terminal here in Charlotte, if you can't tell. I don't know why my AI planes really aren't moving. Well, they're kind of. But yes, this is the regional section of Charlotte.
Departure check completed. Bypass pin inserted. Release parking brakes.
Alright, parking brakes are released. You are clear to push.
All engines clear. Start at will.
And our out time for PSA, the wheels have to move 10 feet, so it's 1957. Once we move 10 feet, we'll get an out time. So there we go. We got an out time of 1957. And we're ready for the engine start. So we're going to turn off the packs, and we'll spin number 2. Watching our N2 rise here. Once we get to 20% N2, we can introduce fuel. There's 20. And with that engine up and running, we are going to go ahead. Packs are still off. Ooh, that sounded weird. Packs are still off. Spin 1.
Set parking brakes.
Parking brake is set. You are clear to disconnect. Waiting for 20%. There it is. There goes the fuel. He's coming over to disconnect the tow bar. We've got the engines stabilizing now. So looks like we are nice and stable. Alright. You can turn on the air conditioning again.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass bin removed.
He is disconnected, and I'm just going to wait for him to... As soon as I see our little marshaller guy walking away like this, I know we're good. I'm going to turn on the probe heat, turn off the APU, engage the hydraulics, arm the thrust reversers, arm the nose wheel steering. Flaps 8.
Left is clear. Right is clear.
So he's given us a wave. We are good to go. We're going to test the flight controls. So we got down, up, right, left. All right. I think we are good there. We can run the after start checklist. The fuel check valve is checked. Anti-ice is off. Rudder checked. Nose wheel steering is armed. Thrust reversers is armed. And CAS verify checked. After start checklist is complete. We're going off of 1-8 left, which is right there. We're going to run the taxi checklist now. Flaps 8 degrees required, indicating 8 degrees. Takeoff data is set, and trims are green and centered. 4.8. Taxi checklist is complete. Brakes off. Nose light, taxi lights. It's going to be straight ahead and then right on Charlie. And we can run the before takeoff checklist. Takeoff configuration is checked. We can see that by a takeoff config OK. Takeoff fuel quantity balance, we've got 5,000, actually 6,000 required, 6,800 on board checked. Brake temperature is checked. Fuel cross flow is off. And let's see, we've got company right there. Turn off those lights. Oh, he's moving into the runway now. Light. Flight controls are checked. Takeoff briefing. We've got runway 18 left, and that's complete. Ignition anti-ice is set. CAS is checked, and the runway heading is checked. What? Okay. We will hold here for that AI that just decided to cut right in front of me. Ian, what's up, man? Nice to see you. Huh. Yeah, he just kind of came out of nowhere there. So we're going to wait for him. I really hope nobody's on final. Yeah, nobody's there. So he's going to turn onto the runway to go take off, and it'll be okay. We're not on VATSIM or anything. We're just using AI traffic, so it's not like I actually cut somebody else off. So he's going to line up and wait. So we're going to be behind company here. Again, I don't see anybody on final, and I don't see anybody on the... Oh, okay. I couldn't tell if that was somebody out there. Probably not. So we will be holding short of 18 left. What's up, Dylan? Nice to see you. Hope you guys are having a good evening. Run and go do something really quick. Alright, we can line up and wait now. That traffic rolling, he's out of here. Alright, we're clear both sides. To thrust into takeoff mode, or TOTO. can see right there, our primary flight display. Alright, we'll say we're cleared for takeoff. Advance the power. And let's go flying. Toga's set. Press set, 80 knots. V1, rotate. V2. Positive rate, gear up, speed. Corner feet heading. Thousand feet climb thrust, speed 250. We're going to start accelerating to 250 knots. Still flying runway heading here. We'll get, ATC would really just give us direct to, what is it? They'd really give us just direct to Humpy here in just a second. We've passed the VFTL, so we go flaps up. Thrust reverse is off. And we can now go direct to Humpy and execute. Nav. And now we can pretty much run the after takeoff checklist. The gear flaps are up. Gear crossflow is auto, bleeds APU set, thrust reversers are off in the cast, verify check, after takeoff checks are complete. Speeding up to 250 knots. And flying a little bit. It's a beautiful evening outside of Charlotte. As we head on over to Myrtle Beach. This is a very quick flight. It's going to be about 40 minutes. Will not be that long at all. And the way this SID works, once we hit 10,000 feet, instead of going up to 290 like you usually do, we're just going to speed up to 280 knots. As per the SID, we climb at 280 knots up to our cruising altitude. And that's just per the SID, unless, of course, ATC were to advise otherwise. But we're our own ATC, and we're going to climb out at 280. Put on the autopilot. $10,000 feet. And now we're going to go to speed 280. And we'll be climbing up at 280 knots all the way up to our cruising altitude. From there, this plane has no auto throttle, so I will be controlling the airspeed while we cruise on our way over to Myrtle Beach. Again, it's going to be a very quick cruise. See, Myrtle Beach is, actually if I just take this, we can link this up, execute. Our top of descent is already right there. We're less than 70 miles away from our top of descent. I've probably flown this flight, oh gosh, so many times. I've flown Charlotte, Myrtle Beach. I'd like to check on American Virtual. That's something else I forgot to do. I forgot to start the ACARS for American Virtual, but that's okay because I can actually link them to this stream and be like, here's me flying this flight. You can actually have video, you have video evidence of me flying this because I forgot to start our ACARS. But I keep track of the times. That way too I have out, off, on, and in times. Actually, if I check here, we were our takeoff is 2004. I think we're going to pop outside really quick, check out some crews here. So there's Charlotte behind us. We're coming up on 18,000 feet. I just realized my textures look kind of sad. I gotta figure that out. There's 18,000 feet, 2992 is set. Yeah, the textures look a little off. I think because, like I said, this is a pretty much brand new install of my flight sim here. We're actually going to speed up to 290 at the cruise. But this is actually a brand new install of my flight sim, like I said. And my first flight with this flight sim was about an hour ago when I flew to Charlotte from Louisville in this airplane. So I didn't really have a chance to check all this stuff out, but I am noticing I'm not liking... maybe it's okay. I don't know. It's I'm gonna look at the textures. I don't like how I can see that. So just have to play with some settings. So now that we're at cruise, I'm going to keep the fasten seatbelt sign on. This is such a short flight, just due to how short it is, and we'll be descending here pretty soon. But now that we're at cruise, we have to manage the speed. That is the one thing I love about the CRJ, is that there's no auto throttle. So while you fly this plane, I mean, it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing, but you just can't get up and walk away from the plane, per se. You actually have to sit with this thing and kind of be a pilot. It also doesn't have VNAV. If you notice, there's no VNAV button anywhere. The next-gen CRJs have VNAV, and that's kind of... It's kind of like VNAV. It's essentially enhanced vertical speed. But anyways, with this plane, yeah, we have no VNAV. So when we're descending on a star, all that has to be computed out. Now, it's pretty much done by our FMSs, and you'll see once we get to descent, we'll get something called a little snowflake that comes up here, and we pretty much fly the snowflake like an ILS for the descent for the star. It has all the altitude constraints in it and all that kind of stuff. So you are constantly playing with vertical speed while you descend. These next-gen CRJs that PSA has, and I wish this was actually modeled, but it would actually have a VNAV button here to where instead of playing with the vertical speed, you would just hit that button and VNAV would fly the vertical speed that the plane has calculated should be flown for that segment of the star. But you still have to manage the speed. You can't just let the plane go. It only has, this plane only has 3 detents. Well, technically 4, because the idle detent. But there's climb, toga, and max power. Those are great for climbing out. When you climb out, you just, you know, after at 1,000 feet, you drop it in the climb, and you keep it at climb all the way up until cruise. But after that, you really don't have any other, you don't have anything else to control your speed, so... But I love it. I think it's a cool plane. I think it's It's cool to actually have to do work instead of just hitting LNAV and VNAV and just letting the thing fly and paying absolutely zero attention to the plane and just letting it descend. Like this, you actually have to pay attention, and especially when ATC is on and they're expecting you to make every crossing restriction. It's fun. And Myrtle Beach is a really small airport. Actually, if I pull open the charts here, drag those over to your side here. So this was the Queen 3. We literally just took off, flew straight. We're on our way to Unjam right now, and from there we'll turn right over to Myrtle Beach. But we come over to Myrtle Beach here. We're going to be on the ILS runway 18. We're going to go right to Uniform X-Ray Delta Echo Papa. From there, join the localizer to runway 18. And landing on runway 18, we'll land, has no auto brakes, so we got to brake ourselves. We're going to probably make Alpha 3. I don't think I'm going to make Alpha 4. I'd really have to slam in those brakes, but we'll make Alpha 3, left Alpha, and we're going over to Alpha 2. And Alpha 2 is right here. I think in the scenery it's wrong. I think in the scenery it's labeled as Bravo 2, but we're not going by what the scenery says. We're going to go by what the real world says. And we're going to park there at Alpha 2. So it's a very simple, straight-in arrival. No star. Nothing like that. The nice thing about this plane, though, is it will auto-tune the localizer for you. So since I have the ILS 18 in the FMS, it knows that's what I'm going to be flying. So it tunes that in. Once you actually get within range of that navigation aid, it'll tune it in for you, which is nice. I always double-check it, though. And the thing I love, too, it actually has a radio page. I love this because I fly the 737 so much, and the 737 has no radio page. And it's nice to actually have a page here where I can tune any of my radios if I want to, my transponder, all that kind of stuff, instead of having to fiddle with dials back there. Oh, that's what I want. I'm going to double check the sound. I think I sound okay. If at any point I start to sound ridiculous, please let me know. If I'm too loud, if the sim's too loud, whatever it is, just please say something so that way I can fix it. I can't sit here and listen to my stream, so I really don't know what things sound like. I think it sounds okay. Pull it up on my phone and it sounded pretty decent. So we're over Unjam. We're making a left-hand turn now, direct to Uxdep, which is the initial approach fix. And Uxdep is at or above 2,000, and then the next waypoint is Beavet at 1,600. So if we actually come on down to our FMS here, you can check to see what the current vertical speed, it changes in real time, would be. So to make Uxdep at 2,000 feet, doing this current speed, I'd have to descend at 1,100 feet per minute, almost coming up on 12. This is also a really good resource to have while you're descending. You have the snowflake, and that's great to actually have that, but it's also nice to see the number. And usually what I'll do on a lot of stars is I'll check and I'll see what the altitude constraints are. Especially in the Charlotte, there's really only like 1 or 2 waypoints on most stars that you actually have a between altitude. Everything is either above or below a certain altitude. And by that, I can actually look at my star and see, okay, I've got a few waypoints here that I can be below the altitude. So I can actually look at my vertical speed and say, well, instead of changing my vertical speed for every single waypoint, for each segment, I'll just kind of get a overall vertical speed idea. So if it's 1,100, 1,200, 1,100, and 1,300, I'll probably end up doing about 1,200 feet. I can be a little bit below those waypoints, so I'll descend maybe a little quicker than I need to, but pretty much in line with another waypoint. That way it's a constant descent, and we're not changing our vertical speeds all that much. Again, 100 feet difference in vertical speed, no one's going to notice that, but a few hundred feet sometimes can make a big difference. So you can see we're already less than 40 miles away, about 30. Still doing 290 knots. I'm actually curious to see if the sim does this. I have this weird, it happens every single time I fly to Myrtle Beach. I can be approximately 15 miles away from Myrtle Beach, and the visibility will always be shit. The visibility will always be like 8 miles, and it's the weirdest thing. I'm really curious to see if it happens today. The current weather in Myrtle Beach while we're here. Oh. Well, the visibility is going to be bad in general. Winds are 210 at 9, 4 statute miles, rain, mist, few 2,100, broken 3,300, overcast 4,500. Temperature 21, dew point 20, altimeter 29904, output 29904 in my standby altimeter. That way, when it comes time to change it out, I already know I don't have to go back and look at it. So, it's definitely overcast with rain. Definitely hoping that in the next round of updates, Aerosoft actually finds a way to add True Glass. That would be, oh my gosh. True Glass on the planes that have it, I will look for bad weather just to fly those planes in there, because it's so cool to actually have rain effects on your windshield and actually be able to use the windshield wipers. I think that's so cool. And hopefully that's, at least from what I can tell, that's pretty much become the standard for releasing payware airplanes, is to have True Glass and Real Light already kind of installed in it, or at least a second version of one of those two, whatever. So it's nice to see the new add-ons coming out now have those by default, but I'm looking forward to when they start updating different add-ons and older add-ons with the capability for that. So we're approximately 18 miles away from our top of descent. I'd really do some more outside shots, but for some reason in this plane, the outside is just so loud, and I really don't feel like messing with the audio, so I'm just going to kind of leave the audio where it is, and instead of messing with it, I'm just going to leave it. So I can see my FMS, my right FMS down here. It's about 1,600 feet per minute. I'm going to start keying in that lower altitude. I'm fine with 2,000 right now. I really don't want to descend below that in case I do end up getting there a little early. And that vertical speed will change. It will come down. Once I hit my top of descent and start descending, I'm obviously going to have to start slowing down less than 250 knots below 10,000. And because of that, the vertical speed will actually become less as I slow down. So I can have a pretty high vertical speed, could be like 2,300 feet per minute or so on the initial descent. But once I get closer, that's going to start bleeding off. And usually I'll do like maybe 300 feet less than that, so I'd be like maybe 2,000. I'll see what this says, and I'll just kind of make a judgment call when it comes time. Because again, I'll be able to make up that vertical speed by slowing down. Because we're going to maintain 290 knots on the descent. So 290 until approximately, as we get down, I'll just kind of let the speed slowly bleed back. We don't need to maintain 290 the whole way. It's not like it's not like I'm going into a congested airport of some sort. Now, if I was, and the star actually showed that I had to be at certain speeds, then yes, I'd have to hold that speed down, but Myrtle Beach, I'm not worried. I'm hoping, I didn't put it in this stream here, but I'm kind of hoping, once I land in Myrtle Beach, I'll have quite a while, because I actually left early. I left way early. I actually don't, my wheels uptime would technically be in 3 minutes, so I could still be on the ground in Charlotte and get here on time, if anything, early. So I'm going to be way early, so I'm hoping I can run, grab something to eat, and come back and stream the flight back to Charlotte. If I could do that, I'd really be happy about that. So you never know. So there's the top of the descent. It's showing 2,100 feet. I'm going to do like 1,800 to start with, and we'll adjust it from there. So there's 1,800 feet. Bringing the speed out here. Bringing the throttles back. And start speeding up. We're not going to turn on the fast seatbelt sign because they've just been on the whole flight. I realize the dome light's been on too. There we go. We're coming through 18,000 feet, 2994 is set. Put that right there so you guys can kind of see it. Right now it's showing about 2,100 feet per minute. Again, that's going to change as I descend, so I'm happy with that. I'm also not worried about it because that waypoint is at or above 2,000, so even if I am maybe a touch high, it's fine. I'll still be on profile. Descending into the soup here pretty soon. Just double checking everything on the overhead, making sure nothing got out of place. While I'm here, we're just going to arm the thrust reversers now. I actually don't know the flow for PSA when they arm those thrust reversers. I know they arm them after the engines are started and they're pushed off the gate. But for the descent, I'm not 100% sure. I'm assuming it's around the descent checklist, which we can do now. Actually, I have to key in my arrival stuff. So we're going to set the V1 back to the default of 90. Because I don't want those speed bugs all over my speed tape. Just to clean it up. So we got 90. Our V2 go around is 143. And our VFTO is 191. Come on, there we go. So that is set, and with that being set, we can run the approach checklist, or descent checklist, sorry. Descent checklist pressurization is set. Altimeter is 29904 set. Landing data is set. Our arrival briefing is complete, and the CAS is checked. Descent checklist is complete. So now I'm going to start slowing back to 250. We're getting close enough to 10,000 feet where I'm just going to start letting the speed keep bleeding back. One, it's going to bring our descent, our vertical speed to meet this waypoint down. It's also going to help me slow down. So when I hit 10,000 feet, I'm not ripping the throttles back to idle and then putting the throttles forward again once I meet 250 knots, want to hold it. I just want to let this gradually come back. Yeah, arming the thrust reversers for arrival is one thing you have to remember to do in this plane, especially if you're landing at a smaller airport. If you don't arm the thrust reversers, they will not engage when you land, and those are a big part of slowing you down. The other thing, too, is this plane has no auto brakes. So you got to brake yourself. And it's interesting. I found with this plane that, unlike other planes, and I think they don't have auto brakes for the reason because the nose wheel, when the plane sits on the ground, the nose is actually angled down. The ass of the plane sits up higher than the nose. And because of that, they don't have auto brakes on this aircraft, because as soon as you land, the last thing you want to do is slam on the brakes, because you're going to take that nose, which the nose is already, if you're flaring at, let's say, 4 degrees, the nose is a few degrees more, so you could have about a 6-degree difference between the tail and the nose. You don't want the nose, as soon as the main wheels hit the ground, to lurch down and smash in the ground. So I think that's why they don't have auto brakes on this plane. So the one thing I found is to flare, let the main gear touch, get in reverse, start letting that nose down. And once the nose is pretty close to touching the ground, I'll start tapping the brakes a little bit. That'll bring the nose right down. And it'll be a lot better than just slamming on the brakes as soon as you land. So you can see here we're about 600 feet away from crossing through 10,000, and we're about to meet that at 250 knots. And my just guesstimate worked out right. I guessed about 1,800 feet, and slowing back to 250, it's going to be right about 1,800 feet. So very happy on that. There's 10,000 feet. Denali Games, what's up, man? Nice to see you this evening. Glad you can make it to the stream. So there we are coming through 9.3. About 20 miles away from our initial approach fix. You can see the white snowflake is right on here. It's actually starting to come above a little bit. You can probably get this down to about 1,700 feet per minute. Start adding a little bit of power to maintain 250 knots, or at least just a touch below it. And I'm pretty happy with this. We're going to start coming into the clouds here. Our total air temperature is 21, so we're good. We don't need any anti-ice. And with this actually blue thing here, it says Loc 1. It should have tuned the localizer here. So let's check here, 109.5, and it did. And it'll also, don't want to click on that, it'll also preset the course. So when it gets close enough, it'll set the course. Now if I were to change my nav source here, when we get closer to the ILS, I'm going to change my nav source over from FMS1 to Loc 1. If I'm too far away, like if I were to switch my nav source now, 1, I would have to turn off nav because the plane would start trying to capture a localizer, and I don't want it doing that this far away. But 2, the localizer, because we're far enough away, it may not actually have the localizer captured yet. It's tuned and it shows it here in blue, but it's not actually captured. So because of that, you don't want to tune it quite yet. Got the snowflake right on. You can actually see how our glide slope is right there too. So we are already capturing the glide slope. We're less than 20 miles away from Myrtle Beach. And we've got the glide slope captured. The snowflake is nicely centered. And we're doing less than 250 knots, so we're looking very nice. And once we get to that waypoint, I'll start slowing down probably about 200 knots and start getting some flaps out. I think that's about 10 miles or so from the airport. We're about 5 miles. What I'm going to do now is center the heading bug, switch the heading, switch this over to Loc 1, and the course is already tuned in. You can check the localizer, India Mike, Yankee Romeo, and there it is there, so we're good. We're going to switch this one over to, you can see that's actually not tuned, so we're going to tune it for him. Course is 177. Knobs can be a little finicky. There it is. And we've got that course. So we've got 1,000 to go here. You can see we are in the soup. Can't see much at all. The localizer on this plane, just like in the real world, is kind of, it's okay. It's not the best. So we are going to arm approach, but I know the localizer in this plane is a little... And we are going to go down to 1,600 here. We're going to cross that waypoint at 2,000, which is good. And we're going to start slowing back now to about 200 knots. So there's my heading. I'm going to keep that heading coming around here. You can see Loc 1 is armed and alts, so it can actually capture the altitude is armed, and we have the glide slope armed, which is good. There's 200, flaps 8. Should dropping a little bit below that. I don't know why. Oh, you know why? Because it's attempting to capture the localizer. I see what it's doing. That's fine. I'll just let it capture the localizer. That's not a big deal. was confused why it was like climbing almost. So you can see it overshoots the localizer a little bit. It will capture it, it will center it and fly it in just fine. It just capturing it is a little. You got to give the plane a second. It kind of it'll overshoot to the left and then it'll come back to the right. Maybe do a touch overshoot to the right and then come back and pretty much settle back on the localizer, which is fine. Again, that's how it is in the real CRJ. So approximately 5 miles. Waiting for this to capture the glide slope here. It should be. It still shows Alt. I'm waiting for it to capture that glide slope. It's glide slope. I don't understand why it's not on glide slope yet. It's kind of weird. But it's following it. So, alright, we're 5 miles out. We're not on VATSIM. I'm not going to make a call or anything. We're going to go gear down, flap 20. We'll set our V approach of 140. Yeah, that must be... This is a... It isn't. I'm in the beta testing group of this plane, and this is a beta. It was supposed to fix a little something with one of the things here in Dave, and that might be a bug because it's definitely not on altitude capture. It's following the glide slope. We're gonna go flap 30. Take a picture of that. I'll send that to Hans. That's 1,000 feet. Flap 45. Because of flap 45, you got to add a lot of... That flap 45 has a lot of drag, so you really got to increase power here to maintain 140. More so than you would on most planes. I can pretty much see the runway now, so I'm going to take the autopilot out and hand fly. Our minimums are 200 feet, so when we get that, we will decide if we're landing. I'm sure we will.
500.
That's checked.
400. 300. 200. 100.
Glide slope.
50. 40.
Glide
30.
slope.
20. 10.
Down. Versers are good. We got the brakes in. I'll see if I can make Alpha 4. I might be able to. Oh, I think we're gonna. Oh, very nice. Alright. Welcome to Myrtle Beach. 32 minutes in the air. Not bad. Lots of Spirit. That's a Delta 717. Alright, flaps up. These lights off, taxi lights on, strobes off. Turn off the windshield heat and probe heat. Open up the APU SOV so we can start the APU. APU door is open. And we can start the APU. And we're going to Alpha 2. So it's going to be right off my right here. And also deselect the thrust reversers. That on flight log. I'll check that once we park at the gate. Oh, that Delta plane better not go to A2. Oh, you better not. I think there's only 3 gates he's going to. Oh my god. Okay. do a quick deletion of traffic while I park. I wasn't sure what the AFCAD for this airport looked like. I don't know if they had the airport codes right, and they probably don't. Alpha 2 is the gate we always use here at Myrtle Beach, and yeah, Delta's parking there. So, I'll just turn off traffic once I turn into the gate here. But you can see we got a Spirit 321 there. They're all rocking the school bus livery. We've got the APU running. Take those off, we don't need them. Alright, we are going to do a quick turn off of traffic here. Bloop. And we'll park at Alpha 2. Oh, you know, well, maybe it's, I think it's this way. Yes, I do remember correctly. It's listed as B2 and GSX. That's what it was. Couldn't remember if the gate was labeled wrong or something, but I remembered some was labeled wrong and it was GSX, that's right. Made that turn a touch wide. It's okay. Just bring it back to the left a little bit. You gonna marshal me in, man, or are you just gonna... I don't know what that is. Park at the second one. I don't know what kind of marshal job that is. That's pretty abysmal. Set the parking brakes. The APU is running it at 100. We can turn off the engines. Turn off our transponder. Beacon light can come off. Hydraulic 3A off. Fast seatbelt sign off. Nose wheel steering can go off, and we can open the doors. Yeah, they don't know what's... I guess they don't know what's going on here. That was weird. Alright, and we apparently have a Legion handling us. Oh, fantastic. Alright. Parked at 2040. Oh, before we walk outside and say bye, because I'll probably be back. I'll probably stream the flight back to Charlotte. Get that ground power. Well, guys, there you go. There's a flight over to Myrtle Beach from Charlotte. I love this flight. It's a really short flight. Good scenery both ways. The airport, guys, Myrtle Beach. It's a nice scenery. Can't complain. And, yeah. I think it was only like 15 euro. Actually, it wasn't too bad. So, that is going to be that flight. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you. Oh, the rain starts in my sim once I click out of it. But anyways, thank you so much, guys, for coming with me here and flying over to Myrtle Beach. Again, we'll be back in probably about an hour, and we're going to fly back to Charlotte. So I'll see you in an hour, and if you can't make it back, have a good night, and I'll see you guys in the next video.